My 2006 Silverado Duramax has almost 430,000 miles. And in the 8 months that I've owned it, I've done a whole bunch of either maintenance, upgrades, or repairs. From little projects inside to big projects underneath, we've basically been covering everything that we can to update this truck to a modern standard that's going to be efficient, well-maintained, and easily last us another 430,000 miles. For upgrades on the air system, so far we have an SMB intake, a PPE downpipe, and then a 4-inch catted and muffled MagnaFlow exhaust system. I'd like to put a 5-inch on it at some point, but today we need to address the other side of our turbo. We've got air coming in, but the air coming out, we're partially losing through boost leaks on the hot side, on the Y bridge, and through a ton of restrictions. And I've got just the thing to fix that. We're going with a WCFab Stage 1 complete kit. I've already got the SMB like we talked about, so I didn't go Stage 2 and include their intake. It is emissions compliant with ports for your EGR, so for some of us that live in an emissions area where they are going to be checking that, we got our hot side, and then we've got our cold side connections. We're gonna go ahead and start by getting the driver's side wheel and fender liner out so that we can get to the bottom of the hot side. So you can see one problem here already. We recently had the hot side out to do a bunch of work on the front of the engine. And I made damn sure that this clamp was in there because we had a bunch of boost leaks. And you can see that either the silicone has gotten weak and is allowed to push it out, or it just decided that it couldn't hold the pressure. And I'm sure I'm losing a little bit of boost from right there. For our boost clamps, sometimes a long socket isn't quite long enough. So we've got these CTA long sockets here to be able to get in there, super easy to get our 11s out. You can see inside of our tube here, some of the problems you'll run into with the fact that you have all your PCV gases flowing through there. Now in my case, I don't have quite as many PCV gases flowing through, and we'll show you why later. Up top, same story, different location. And then we're gonna play fisherman and try to squirrel this tube up out of here. Right away, you can see the distinct size difference between the two of these pipes and what an incredible amount more flow we're gonna get out of the WCFab. There we go. That does look really good right there. And we're gonna use some of our factory fresh wood glue as a lubricant. If you don't know the joke, you gotta go back and watch some of the old videos. As you can see, that stuff works really well. Don't forget to properly orient your couplers so that you can read the logo. Now you might notice if you have an SMB intake that my cover looks different than yours. That's because when I bought the truck, there was no cover. And I understand for airflow, no cover means there'll be more potential flow, but I wanted some of the water protection of having a cover here, so I made one. And as you look at my filter, you can see that it's got a little bit of black color to it. And let's see, not really any oil on the outside. And that's because of the way that I routed my PCV system. I've got the 2 ports coming through some PPE connectors through a Y, down and underneath and into this tube here, so that all of my vapor is getting pulled through the intake still and getting filtered on the outside. You can see on the inside here, we're totally dry, so we're not adding any oil to the actual intake on either side, but what we are doing is we're keeping that vapor from stinking on the outside of the truck. Another option would be to run this through a Venturi into your exhaust, but that seemed like a lot more work at the time versus putting a catch can underneath here. There we go. So next up, we should disconnect the batteries before we disconnect our grid heater and start pulling all our harnesses off. That way, we don't set anything on fire. And yes, I know all you guys in the Midwest and whatnot, you're not gonna put a grid heater in here, you're not gonna have an EGR or any of those things, but again, I live in an emissions area, I really don't have a choice. I'm really curious to see how bad the EGR accumulation is in here, because the EGR, the turbo, the heads, the CP3 was all replaced at about 380,000 miles. Realistically, there's not a whole lot of mileage on this part of the system. Kind of going about this a little backwards too. Normally, I think you would just pull the pipe off down here before you did anything up here. But I figure, when in Rome, I may as well. Again,
That was the first time.
Yeah, that was the first time. That wasn't the second time. Okay. Yeah, there's definitely some EGR accumulation in there. We're gonna have better flow now. Still gonna have EGR, but we'll have better flow. I'm trying to work it out. Sick. Stupid harness. All right, now we can start the fun part of the Y bridge. We've got our elbow here and the 8 bolts or nut bolt combination that holds it on. As I was reading both in the directions and other people's stories online, these 8 bolts might take us 2 days. The WCFab instructions have you pull the EGR cooler out of the way and drain the coolant and whatnot. All things I don't actually want to do right now. So we're gonna see how far we can get without doing that.
Okay, get it out. Yeah, get it.
Not tight. No, I don't know if it's gonna come out with the coolant line still here, but I'm sure as hell gonna try. If it will come out. I can tell that when whoever was in here to do the heads, they basically glued this thing in here. There's silicone all over the place. It's coming loose now. Try not to hit the turbo blade. All right, we're out. Hey, there's our socket. A whole bunch of other stuff. That was a lot of work to get the stupid Y bridge out. Not only was the neck difficult to get out because it was hitting right here, but the Y bridge itself, combination of loosening the 3 bolts on the turbo to be able to lift the pedestal up. I've got my downpipe disconnected, the stupid hose in the way, and everything else that it took. Eventually we got it out. We've got our ports all cleaned up on the truck. We've got all the debris vacuumed out of it. And now we can really see the difference between these. I really do appreciate the flow design inside of the WC unit. You can see where it's got this diverter in the middle versus the factory unit where the air just runs into it and the turbulence is gonna build like crazy. And then on top of that, the incredible size difference. And you can see where it's molded inside here to fit around all the different parts a lot easier. One last thing is gonna be, damn, I'm getting this dirty. How it installs, it's got this wedge on the bottom so that this is gonna slide in from the top. And then when we put our conical nut in here, this guy is gonna tighten up against our O-ring to create our seal. The O-ring channels are machined so that as you're installing it, it's gonna get stuck down in there. That's what you want. For lubrication, I'm just gonna use a bit of Lucas Assembly Lube. We do a really good job making it look easy to get this thing in here, but let me be honest, this took way too long. Guys, you really got to be patient with this or you're going to be throwing tools left and right. We did not install the nuts first. That did not work for us. So we then later had to fish everything down onto the backside while trying to pry up on the turbo. Just take your time, you'll get it. So check it out. This is the secret to getting these 4 bottom bolts torqued, at least in my case. We've got this magnet so that I could drop this whole assembly down the back, grab it, rotate it, pull, and then drop it on the nut. What we have here is a 10 mil on a rotating swivel, on a extension. This is a 4-inch and this is a 10-inch. That gave me just enough wiggle room on all 4 of them to get in there with the torque wrench. Now we'll just do the same thing with our top 4 and bend the crap out of the turbo to get that corner one torqued. We've got our coolant line to the turbo replaced with a heater hose line that I had. Got a little extra fuel line replaced, and our fuel lines are loosely in there. Got a combination of interference here from the backside of the alternator to our upper radiator hose. The hard line is hitting right there, and it's not allowing me to get enough angle to get down in there. If I get on the stud, oh, wait. I think that was it right there, actually. Just give it a little pry encouragement on that side, and it rotated. All right, it's been a busy morning of trying to get stuff done. We haven't really talked through most of this because it's just the reinstallation process, but we went ahead and we fought through getting the EGR reinstalled, getting our coolant hoses installed, as well as getting some coolant in the rig. Now, for our intake horn, we did run into a bit of fitment issue there, and I had to trim the bottom of the intake horn to get it in past the fuel line, and I had to reorient the fuel line a little bit with the hose clamp. Past that, it was just a real pain in the butt. It did go in though, and it fits without any actual friction there. So now we're gonna go ahead and get working on the top side. We modified our EGR on the side there. We trimmed it up so that we can get the tube to fit down and past. So I think should be pretty quick from this point forward. Pretty dirty. This could use a little cleaning. Drop it down. Found you. So we spent quite a bit of time trying to figure out the orientation of the bottom of our charge pipe here and where our clamps were going to fit around our specific coolant lines. So you're going to have to do the same. A couple of things to note. We had to bend our alternator cables out of the way to clear the top of our pipe here. Yeah, we did add the second one. So if you're doing a big 3 upgrade, this is something you'll run into. You might need to orient your cable in a different location. We also wrapped our harness up so that it's all nice and tidy now. Man, I'm getting tired. The third day of this is, I mean, if you weren't filming, it wouldn't take 3 days, and trying to buy cars at auction.
10 seconds, bro! He's gonna do it in the last 5 seconds.
It just closed at 5100. We won. High five, man.
I just bought a car.
Bought a car at auction. The main trunk of the harness is going to have to come around to the other side, wrap back and around the EGR kind of like this in a new orientation instead of going up and over like it did before. So the directions call for putting this in after you put the top pipe in, but I think it makes more sense to put it in now. So I'm going to try.
Clamp came off.
I can't see it. Is that on?
Yeah.
Sweet. Okay, so we're locked in. Don't forget to put your O-rings to the EGR in. Clean your grid heater if it looks as terrible as mine and was full of goo as well. That actually worked pretty well. Now this may be a royal pain in the butt to get in here, but boy does it look good. Click, click. Yeah, get these two lined up. Well guys, that's gonna be a wrap for this one. That was 4 days of effort for what I hope is a lifetime of enjoyment. Woo! You see that guy? That sounded mean. No, I know. You would have gotten this done in 4 hours on the ground in your driveway with it raining.
But that's okay.
At the end of the day, I would say that a normal person not filming, not doing a bunch of other projects could easily get this done in 1 day, maybe 2 if that Y bridge is as much trouble as ours. Really the trick here was to make sure you lift the turbo, or if you're taking the turbo out to go big, man, go big or go home because you'll get it done a lot easier that way. Like, subscribe, comment, join the channel, do all the fun things. hit up WCFab if you want a kit for yourself. It's getting hot out here, so I gotta be done. I'll see you in the next one.